talks about marriage and girlfriends. Now this one is a very interesting question. The Bible requires, there are two questions, they are joint, I think you will share them. The Bible requires a man to marry a girl. But I have had male attractions since childhood. I'm now 26. How can I be helped? And then this one says, you're asking us to get married, but some of us actually do not desire. I do not desire, or well, hate women. Over to you, sir.
So, some of the questions I need to confess, I may not have the answers. That is the one thing I want to tell you from the outset. The second thing I would say, as a Christian, you never hate anybody. Hatred is not of God, hatred is of the devil. So why would you hate somebody? Especially somebody you don't know, you haven't interacted with them. But even when you have interacted with somebody and they have annoyed you, as a Christian, you cannot hate. So hatred is out. Now the answer to the question, the first one, and also the thing about people not interested, I will give you a story. Because as I told you, there are some things I don't know the answer. But there was a friend of mine called David Kato. Some of you may remember his name. But David Kato came to me after we left Budo. He was behind me. Now, David Kato, as you know, is a twin. So his twin brother was my classmate, Waswa. But David, by the time they came to Budo, he was one class behind. And I don't know the situation, but we became good friends. We were in the same dormitory. So when we finished school, many years later, he came to me and said, hey, I've been away, blah, blah, blah. And then I had just written an article. I used to write in the newspapers, a legal column. And one of the legal columns I wrote was about homosexuality and just outlining what the law was and saying it is illegal. So David comes to me and says, by the way, I read your article and I'm one of those people. Which people? He said the homosexuals. I almost jumped off my chair. Because this was the first time I was actually meeting somebody who was, and somebody who I knew very well. So I said, David, but the last time we met, we were both locally, what happened? So he told me many stories, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, you know, it is the thing I told you about hatred. He was my friend, my senior one. And so he kept coming to my office and telling me, this is what's happening, this is what's happening. He said, I know you are my friend. You will not, even if the law says you prosecute me, you will not prosecute me because you're my friend. And I told him, yeah, that is true, I cannot. So then he told me he was teaching in a school. And so I said, but David, why don't you marry? He said, no, I'm not interested. And the family even married for me somebody, and I was not interested. I'm telling you this partly because David is dead, so I can share this for the benefit of us who are alive. So I told him, David, I know I cannot prosecute you, but as a friend I need to warn you. If any Uganda parent catches you with their son, you will not even get to the police. They will deal with you there, and I'm afraid they might kill you from what I know, the situation in the country. I said, please, my friend, be very careful. So we went on our life. I would meet, he would come, and we did things. He told me many things, and I would tell him, David, you know, the Lord saves, and so on. So one day, I was a judge in Fort Portal, and of course, his brother, his twin brother, knew we were friends. So one day I was coming from Fort Portal where I was a resident judge, and Waswa calls me and says, your friend has been killed. I said, what happened? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, David was hit by a stone by his boyfriend or somebody he was living with. And I could not even go for the burial, because if you Google, you see it was a very controversial burial and so on. So that is the little or the much I know about that kind of lifestyle. Is that here in Uganda, it is not a very safe environment for that kind of thing. And I have given you the story of my friend David because it is what I know. But you don't have to get married if you are not interested in girls. Yeah, you don't have to get, I talked about, that is what the majority of people do, but I know that there are always exceptions. And those of us who are in the majority never know what is happening on the other side. So that's why I prefaced my answer with, there are some things I don't know. And of course now we are learning Semenya from South Africa. They could not establish if it was a boy or a girl. There is a boxer who was in the Olympics from Nigeria. So the world becomes more complex than we know. So it's possible there are some things I don't know. So I just talk in the general terms that I know. And I think if anybody has a problem struggling with that, I think this is not a place we can talk about it in public, because the majority will not relate, they don't know. So I'm available to talk it over privately. I think Reverend needs to say something about that as well.
Okay. So the Bible does not, so it remains a sin, and temptation is not sin. So being tempted is actually part of us. But then when you are tempted and you have somebody to seek help from, him, me, anybody, Reverend Bennett, please come, we walk together. I can give a testimony that there are so many whom we have walked with, and let me tell you, they find later that, by the way, that was a lie from the devil. I feared women. Why? Because when my father married, I can assure you, I hated women, that they are crushers. So when I got saved, even relationship became tough. I was in a boys' school, went to make school. So when I was in St. Francis, it remained tough to relate. And I remember I loved the girl. I wanted to say, can we pray about it? But I sat near her, prayed to God, please tell her that this man is not interested, that I hated, but because of the environment I grew up in, I never realized the beauty of what? The beauty of marriage, the beauty of women. And so even rejection was taken toughly. I mean, I have no time to talk about it. That when she rejects me, I'm now more crushed. And of course, that's reality. But when you walk with somebody, let me tell you, you'll find actually later that God makes everything in its own time very beautiful. God bless you.